Hello to my class. Good afternoon, Mr. X's class. Good evening. The word for today is preliminary for English 4. And preliminary has 4 syllables, and the stress is on lim, preliminary. It has 2 parts of speech, actually. An adjective part of speech, which is at the top of your card, and then a noun, which is listed in word families. And the adjective means happening before a more important action or event. So something that's preliminary is not so important, but it comes before something else that is more important. So a good example of that would be in the Olympics. I don't know if you remember from the Olympics, for running or for swimming, they have what are called preliminary, like they call them heats sometimes. That's a word for it, but they're preliminary races. There are preliminary races before the Olympic finals. So the final is the most important race, where you decide the top, who are the top 3 people in the world in this race. But before you get there, you have a whole lot of people in the beginning. So they need to have many, many preliminary races to eliminate the people who are not as good before they can do the final race. And that's true for any sport. So I mean, if soccer, you have regular league games, right? Those are preliminary to the final game at the end of the season, which decides who actually wins the whole league. Another example would be the sentence that I wrote here. We have created a preliminary proposal, but we will revise and submit it later. So that would be like at work or something. If you make a proposal, but it's not a final proposal, so you have to fix it, change it, and then later you'll submit it. Those 2 sentences, those are just examples that I made. Okay, those are not the ones that go on the back of your card. The sentence that goes on the back of your card, which is related to English literature or related to English class, is this over here. The first draft is just a preliminary version of the essay. So that means when you write an essay, you have to often write, the teacher will ask you to do a first draft, which is your first attempt. You're trying to write your essay. You do as well as you can, but then you send it in, give it to the teacher, or put it on Google Docs, and they fix it, make comments, give it back to you. Then you make the final version. So it's less important. The first draft is less important. It's usually worth fewer points, right? Teacher gives you many more points for the final draft. The first draft is just the preliminary, less important version of the essay. Then when you fix it, you make the real final version, which is more important. So that was the sentence to copy on the back of your card. Let's go over the rest of this information here. In Spanish, bad Spanish pronunciation today. In Spanish, preliminar. And then word families is actually preliminary as a noun. A preliminary as a noun is a thing that happens before and is less important. So the preliminary. So and it's often used in plural. We talk about the preliminaries. Have we completed the preliminaries before the event, before the celebration or something? Like the things that happen before. The preliminaries are the preliminary activities. So it's related, but the preliminary is the thing that happens, or the event or action that happens before. That's less important. And adjective describes. So like the adjective, the sentences I wrote here are both with the adjective. Preliminary races, preliminary proposal. The noun would just be a preliminary. So we need to complete the preliminaries before, the party. Synonyms: initial or preparatory, preparing for something. Antonym for preliminary is final, because just think about like the first draft or the final draft. The final draft is the opposite in a way of the first draft, right? It's complete. You've checked everything. And preliminary is like the opposite of that. It's saying it's not complete, it's not final, and it's happening before the really important. It's not the really important final version. It happened before that. All right, so that is about it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy your evening. And please make a card with a sentence about you, Mr. X's students, and make sure you draw a picture on your card as well. Thank you.